My name is Sonia LeRae. I'm a lifestyle relationship counselor, fashion psychologist, holistic health and wellness practitioner, and Whispers, I'm always so excited to be in our safe zone to birth another dynamic discussion. I hope you all have had such a great week. I know I have, and I'm always so excited to come in and start another beautiful discussion here on Podbean, our new home, our new location. It is so wonderful. And don't forget, Podbean has done something extraordinary. They have placed a live chat into each and every one of our episodes. So, this way, if you have a question, because before you used to be able to call in and talk to me, well, that's okay. We still got it covered. You can drop your questions in the chat box, and you know how your girl loves to monitor a great chat box. So, please drop your questions, your comments in there, and the only thing I ask is that we please give dignity and respect to each other, because you know what? That's what makes this show so phenomenal, is because we respect and give dignity and honor to everyone's opinion. And don't forget, you guys, that if you haven't subscribed to the Whisperers Exchange, you got to come on and be a part of our community. I mean, you're missing out on the featured episodes and everything. The more of a detailed drop from each episode is in the newsletter. So, you know what? You're building upon those master keys that you receive in the episode. So, imagine, what are you going to get for a bonus with the price of neglecting emotional currency that we're going to get into today? Plus, you get the featured cocktail or the mocktail. If you decide to make it a cocktail, I'm not going to judge you, but you get the cocktail mocktail of the hour as well. So don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. It's called the Whispers Exchange. And also, there is a live link always in each and every one of our description boxes, as well as if you're following us over on Instagram at Whispers in a Bottle _podcast. Yes, I love it in the chat. I'm subscribed. Come on, y'all. See, I'm telling you, you're missing out if you're not on it. So, listen, today's discussion is going to be powerful because you already heard the title, The Price of Neglecting Emotional Currency. So, without fail, I love to start all of our discussions off with a clear meaning or definition. So, this isn't going to be any different. We're going to get the meaning or the definition of emotional neglect, because I really want you to understand what that is. So, emotional neglect means a failure to attend to or to take care of someone's feelings. So, let me give that to you again, okay? Emotional neglect means a failure to attend to or take care of someone's feelings. So, whisperers, before we get into the long term consequences of emotional debt, let's start with some of the fundamental questions that arise. So, the one question that always comes up whenever I'm doing this conversation or whenever I'm working with clients is this: what is emotional neglect? So, I think we got to get a little clarity in there when we're talking about that, right? So, emotional neglect is not always loud or obvious or even dramatic. So, I want you to be really clear with that, that it's not something that's sometimes going to be like pow right in your face. It's not the slamming of the doors or the shouting of harsh words, but instead, it's very quiet. It has an absence of emotional connection, the silent void where support should be. There's no validation, there's no understanding, and there's no even litigation into the matters that need to be addressed. Okay, so that's what it is. And it's when a person, especially during a child growing up without hearing, I'm proud of you, It's when a spouse or a partner feels unseen or even unheard. And it's when friendships exist on the surface, but not one ask of like, how are you? And really meaning that, how are you? There's a way people can ask you, oh, how are you? But they really don't want you to answer the question. It's the blanket, oh, how you doing? But praying that you don't lean into it. So whispers, just like financial neglect can lead to like debt, emotional neglect creates an emotional deficit that compounds over time. So I want you to realize that there are some fallouts, there's deficits in the account, but it accumulates over time. It's something that gets accumulation. It doesn't just happen all at once. And sometimes it can. Sometimes it can be very abrupt and all at once as well. But when it's this type of that price of neglect, of that neglecting emotional currency, it's a time bound kind of thing. It's over a span. So let me say it's like that when we continually withdraw from our emotional reserves without even replenishing them, we actually risk experiencing deep exhaustion, strained relationships, and even physical health issues. See, these are major deficits that occur. So, whispers, what happens when we ignore this emotional currency? Well, I'm going to tell you. It seems like we should have some sort of like mystery music playing when I said that, right? So, what is the real cost? So, I want to kind of break down the long term consequences of emotional debt. And I know that I want to share at least five master keys to avoid um, breakdown in these key areas of our life even, and I may even give you more than five. I'm thinking about what I want to do and how I want to lean into this, because I know I want to give you a definite a set of master keys. And I love to give you master keys in all of my discussions. So if this is your first time hearing me, I want to tell you why I give those master keys. And even everybody who has listened to my show before, they can tell you, and why I tell you that you need to always bring that proverbial keychain with you is because those master keys that I give out to you, they allow you to open up the corridors, the hallways, those secret compartments of our heart and our mind. Now, notice I said the secret compartments. See, those are compartments that only you know of, and only areas that you are aware that you need support or you need to change or you need to lock away. But those powerful master keys do something else for us as well. Those master keys allow us to shut out that inner and outer noise so we can step up and step into our greatness, or step up and step over the things that are sabotaging us as well. That we don't continue to carry the baggage along with us. So, that's the real reason of master keys in each and every one of my discussions. And even if you join me on Thursdays at 1 o'clock on Noon Vibe, you get master keys in those discussions as well, because it all goes hand in hand. But we can't take those keys and throw them in the back seat. We can't throw them in the bottom of our bag because we're going to need them. So, with that being said, let's lean into the long term consequences of emotional debt. Okay. So, this way, it gives us an opportunity to fill our reserves, and we have a plenty to fill up on our main accounts, right? So, that's why I want to go into this space and place first. So, it's first master key that we're going to get into is strained relationships. When we neglect to like invest emotionally in people around us, be it from personal, professional, or even associates that are associated with us, it begins to erode those relationships. And our partners or our friends start to drift apart. The friendships become distant and hard. They can even become problematic. Family bonds start to weaken. And whispers, over time, this lack of emotional exchange even creates resentment. Now, we know that we talked about resentment in several of our discussions, and resentment is even like taking poison that you're supposed to be giving to someone else. But that's what happens when we are dealing with the consequences of emotional debt. See, it even causes people to even isolate themselves and to even lose trust in one another. See, that's impactful and powerful. So think of relationships like a bank account. And I think that's a good illustration for us to use too. So if you keep making like withdrawals from that account and without ever depositing love, attention, empathy, eventually you'll be overdrawn. So if we aren't going to make deposits in our emotional banks, we are also going to place unneeded stress in our lives. So many of us have certain things that are on like the that automatically like draft out of our accounts. So I want you to put that thought in your mind, okay? That we have our bank account and you heard everything that I put in there. And those are withdrawals that we're making if we don't have that deposit of love, attention, empathy, or anything like that that we're placing in there, right? But as we do that, and our things that we have on that auto pay would come in and they would bounce higher than the ceiling. And you would then be faced with, secondary charges for insufficient funds. And how much more so is it as important to deposit and have the currency correct? Because, secondary funds can kill you, those fees can kill you. But imagine it even in your relationship. Now we're talking about relationships. So it is more important for us to deposit the love. It's more important for us to really develop the connections, the respect, and the understanding into our emotional bank accounts more than ever. This is the time, the space, and the growth that we need to be working on currently. This would mean that we would have to pick up our second master key as well. And that second master key is that we would have to have mental, and it would cause mental and emotional exhaustion, right? It would cause these two elements. And this key is something that we cannot afford, especially in this day and age. It's so much going on. You could be sitting in your house and stress will come to your front door. But imagine if you're neglecting this area. Ignoring emotional needs doesn't just affect our relationship, it deeply impacts our own mental health. Now, it's constantly giving without even refueling that leads to burnout. It's suppressing emotions that leads to anxiety and depression. It's feeling unseen or unheard that fosters even self doubt and even low self esteem and self worth. See, whisperers, many people push through life on emotional autopilot, and they're unaware that they are running on empty until they hit a wall. And our mental health is our wealth. And unfortunately, many people extract and neglect their mental health until it becomes dire. And I'm sorry to even have to report that the number of suicides are on a rise. And sometimes, when I'm doing these discussions and I'm looking into them and really wanting to bring out certain elements in our discussion, there's some things that can't be avoided either. And this is one of those areas. So, being that they're on the rise in organizations like the AFSP, the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, they're trying to reduce the annual suicide rate by 20% this year. 20% by putting like different programs in place to identify and address these issues that are happening. And Whispers, I want to lean in for just a second on this to just say this too. And some of you all could be listening, and there could be someone that we can catch on this discussion too. And even if you know someone that needs the support and is struggling in areas like this, help them to call 988. That's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Or you can even text 741-741. And that's the text line for the Suicide Crisis Lifeline. And they're both available 24/7. So we see how dire this is, neglecting our emotional currency. We see the weight that is in there as well. And Whispers, there's no shame in needing help. There's no shame in needing to understand that neglecting our emotional currency can cause these pits. These are not just downfall. This is a pit. This is a valley that you can fall into. And there aren't any stigmas with being willing to take care of your mental welfare. That's one thing I want to put out here today. I had a discussion earlier in the week with regards to do I feel that the stigma of mental illness will ever be removed? And technically, I have to tell you, I can't understand how there is a stigma, period. Period. Because we know that people are dealing with pressure and they have depression. There's seasonal depression and everything. So, how can it be a stigma when we are so far ahead now? We can't be embarrassed to talk about certain things. I mean, people are faced with different things in their day to day lives. Let me tell you, the other week I was sitting at a restaurant and a woman came in, and I tell you, she just looked disheveled. She kind of had stuff kind of like balled in her arms, like she had a notebook in her arm, and she had some other things in her pocketbook. One strap was on her arm, the other one was kind of hanging out, and the bag was wide open. And I said, "Oh, ma'am." And I reached over and I grabbed the handle and I said, "Oh, your bag is open." I said, "Somebody could steal your wallet." I said, "Oh, thank you so." Oh, she said, "You look so well put together." And I said, "Well, thank you so much." And she just said, "Oh, well, I hope you have a great," and she just rushed down the aisle. And as I looked at her rushing down the aisle, I said, "Well, I sure hope she has a great day." I didn't cast any judgment upon her. I didn't sit there and say, "Well, what's wrong with her? What she did that?" No. Because see, we as people have got to stop scrutinizing every little element. So we may bring that sunshine into that person's life. Just as quick as I stopped and I grabbed her handle and said, "Oh, ma'am, your bag." And she thanked me and she was so grateful. It's the same thing when we're looking at our mental and emotional health. We have to be thankful and grateful that there are people in spaces and places that can help us. I tell you all the time that I have a link to my calendar in each and every one of our episodes in that description box. I am opening myself up to you because we are dealing with such things. People are neglecting their emotional currency, their emotional bank accounts. So it moves us into that next area. And just as critical as the second key is the third master key. It's more important for us to even realize that we have to realize that our physical health is also in decline. Now, our emotions and physical health are deeply connected. They're like marriage mates. Matter of fact, they could be Bobsy twins. They could be identical twins, in all honesty, because it's a mind, body, soul connection. Chronic stress from emotional neglect can lead to high blood pressure, heart disease, autoimmune disorders. And yes, that is a fact. And as a holistic health and wellness practitioner, I cannot begin to tell you how I see the effects of stress on clients' bodies, clients' minds, their soul. Because I'll tell you all constantly, I work with clients in totality. So, from literally impacting the way that they're sleeping. So now it causes a sleep deprivation and a sleep disorder, to digestive problems, often stemming from unprocessed emotions. So, when we have unprocessed emotions, guess what? That causes ulcers, it causes constipation, it causes abdominal pain, it can cause nausea, heartburn, it can even change your appetite and cause your hair to fall out your head. Now, you can't tell me that the two are not hand in hand, that the two don't walk through the door together. Matter of fact, they sing in harmony. So, unaddressed emotional pain weakens your immune system and makes us more susceptible even to illness. So, if it's weakening our immune system, imagine the effect that it has on our mental. So, it has an effect on your mental, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, even. Because sometimes when you're so weighed down, you can barely even call out for help. So, it means that we have to shift that mindset. See, Whisperers, ignoring emotional well being isn't just an external issue, though, but it's an internal issue. And it manifests in our bodies, demanding attention in ways we cannot ignore. See, this discussion today I wanted to have because I felt it was so important. And I really want to take my time with it because I want to pour into this discussion because this is an element that sits near and dear to my heart. So you may be asking, well, how so? You all know that I am a psychologist. I'm a psychologist not only in your life and your relationships, I'm also a psychologist when it comes to disorders of body dysmorphia because as a fashion psychologist. Then I'm a holistic health and wellness practitioner. So I see it across the board and how it taps into every element of our life and of your lives. So it behooves me to sit in this space and place and take my time with this. Because then, if I don't, it leads you into your fourth master key, which is poor decision making. When we operate from a place of emotional deficit, literally our judgment becomes so clouded. We make impulsive choices based on short term relief rather than long term benefits. I like to say that this is when you are so hungry and you stop and you go get those french fries when you know they don't have any benefit whatsoever, and you purchase them on an impulse of getting something quick to relieve the gnawing in your belly. But you now have to think about how that choice may have sabotaged your diet for the day or sabotage the things that you're trying to pivot, maybe the cholesterol or whatever you're thinking about, how it's going to impact you. So we have to be willing to slow down so we don't make poor decisions. And that's hard when you're already in that spin cycle. And if you've ever sat and you've watched your laundry get into the spin cycle, at first it starts off very slow. And you see, and it's kind of going around kind of slow, and it's like, right? Then all of a sudden it starts to pick up a little bit more of that speed. And then it starts to really start to spin. And your machine may even rock a little bit because of the agitation in it, because it's going so fast. It's the same thing that's happening inside of us. But the only way for us to do that is either to stop the machine or to take that power in pausing. And you know how much I integrate that power of pausing into your healthy diet. See, Whisperers, it's that powerful for us to recall our master keys. See, when we make poor decisions, and this is affecting us even, we start to overcommit ourselves by saying yes when we should say no, and always giving in and never allowing our complete sentence to take the lead of that no. And then on top of everything else, we start to settle for less than we deserve in friendships, careers, and love. And that's how impactful that neglect is in that bank account when it comes to our emotional currency and the impact that it has on our mind, body, and soul. See, emotional bankruptcy can lead to self-sabotage. Emotional bankruptcy can move you to poor financial decisions and even destructive coping mechanisms. So, when I say that, that means that sometimes your coping mechanisms become alcohol and the overindulgency in it. Or now you're just kind of this high junkie where you have to have something that's always at a high octane. Oh, I got to take a risk or it's not worth it. So we have to pivot. So we have to be willing to recognize and identify these areas that can cause our accounts to be overdrafted. Now, let me give you something to really think on here. If somebody told you that they had a beautiful bank account that had, let's say, rough number, $2 million in it, and only thing you had to do on a daily, and we're going to get into a discussion about daily too. And matter of fact, I believe that's coming up next week about that word daily. That daily you only had to deposit $5. And if you missed a day of depositing that $5, that $1,000,000 would dwindle down to $500. You would be so cognizant about depositing that $5 every day, wouldn't you? You would be so on top of getting that $5 into that account every day, wouldn't you? Well, Whispers is the same thing for our emotional deposits. We must be willing to make those emotional deposits daily. That means that we must be willing to do this on a regular basis. So, guess what? The fifth area that we'd have to watch out for is that generational cycle of emotional debt. Now, these are the places and spaces that we're going to really be mindful of. We don't want to step into these places, the pitfalls, right? So, this area is a little sensitive, and I want to give it a little care in this space and place. So, one of the most overlooked consequences of emotional neglect is its impact on future generations. And you could be a part of that future. So, lean in. See, children raised in emotionally barren environments often struggle to express love. They have a difficulty in setting boundaries or building secure relationships. They're removed from emotions that draw a connection, even. They're disengaged in a lot of ways. They have different unresolved traumas. It's passed down, even. And it's even how it shapes their love or their love languages, their connecting, the conflicts, their self worth, and the understanding that they're supposed to even have. And how all of these areas you must earn, and how all these areas are held as pawns in a horrible game when it's emotional neglect that is generational. Because it's like, oh, yes, I have this beautiful pie, but I'm going to torture you with it that you can't have any of it. But I'm going to sit it right in front of you each time we go. And every time you want a piece, no, this isn't for you. Now, how dreadful would that be? See, when we don't address our emotional debt, we unknowingly hand it down like an unpaid bill to those who come after us. So it's much like when someone passes and the debt that the person owes now becomes the mate's or the family's responsibility. And you're like, oh, well, thanks a whole lot for that one, which means like that they didn't think ahead, or didn't have certain policies in place, and maybe they didn't know, or maybe they just did not care. Which in many cases, when we have emotional debt, some don't even realize it's about when or about how it came into place. They're not even cognizant of it. They're not even sure how they gained this or how they even picked up any of these elements inside of their lives. And they struggle to even try to pivot and move away from it. But then, as they start to get clarity into that space and place, they realize that they do not have to stay inside of there. They do not have to be weighed down. They do not have to take on as the badge, poof, on their chest that this is their identity. But they do have to be willing to pivot. They do have to work diligently to have it removed. And they do also have to acknowledge this space and place. That's the only way that they can change and get rid of it. So now that I've given you those areas, and those are the destructive keys that we want to avoid, right? What if I could give you master keys that would really help you avoid emotional breakdowns or emotional overdrafts? Do you want those keys, Whispers? Would you be willing to take those keys? Well, guess what? I'm going to give you those keys today. See, I did this show in reverse because I wanted to show you how powerful the neglect of emotional currency is and all those master keys that you have on your keychain. Now we're going to get rid of them. So now take those master keys that I gave you off of your ring. And as I give you the new master keys, you're going to have two left over of those horrible master keys that actually don't even open up your safety deposit box. They don't open up the vaults to your heart and your mind, but they do open up the secret compartments. So the next keys that I give you, You're going to have to work diligently to get the last two keys that you have there off your ring. It's going to take work. So here we go. Let's lean into our three powerful master keys now. So, the first master key that I'm giving you is prioritizing emotional deposits daily. Ooh, there's that word. Small but ever so consistent acts of emotional investments. They're going to prevent defects from forming. That means we need to express gratitude, appreciation to those around us, and even to YOU. We need to check in with loved ones, not just on an empty, how you doing? But I mean a real valid. I mean a valid, how are you doing? Sit down and wait for the answers. How are you feeling? What brings you joy today? What has brought you into this space and play? You look so pretty. What motivated you to wear this today? See, you want an answer. You are invested now. That allows us to build and pour into those rich relationships. Okay, we building up that currency. Here we go, whispers. Pay attention. And when we make eye contact with those ones, right? We sitting there in that space and place with them. We're looking at them. They're looking at us. We are connecting. We are sitting there and we are actively listening. Remember, we talked about that. So that means that we are so into what they're saying that we hear it. We are hearing it from our head to our toes, what they're saying, and even reiterating some things. It helps us to be present. It helps us to be active. It helps us to notice emotional deposits that are being placed in there, but it also helps us to deposit emotionally into someone else that brings value. Value. Whispers, that's just in itself should make you excited just to even hear that, just to hear the little antidote, how we going to pivot, how we're switching up. That master key, the first master key of prioritizing emotional deposits, that should get you kind of hyped. Because that means that you literally are looking at your portfolio now and you are seeing what is actively working and what is growing and giving you true investment. So emotional wealth is built through small yet daily deposits, not your grand gestures, not your once in a while. Oh, I bought you flowers. But that was just empty. You just stopped by a store. Oh, let me just get these. I'll give them to him. But you put thought into this now. You even have a card with beautiful wording and meaning into this. So that would take us to our second master key now. And that would be to seek emotional nourishment, not just survival. Ooh. See, sometimes when I say certain things, it gives me chills because I know how powerful these elements are, how powerful these keys are in our life. You know, I am a person who really seeks emotional nourishment, and I also distribute that nourishment in a whole soul manner. So I know the impact of that. See, most people live in emotional survival mode all the time. And that they barely are getting by because you've been in a state of, prolonged stress. And when we're talking about nourishment, many times we think of food. So, you know that if you don't eat, we can survive a while without eating. So, let me put it this way, because this way I want you to see how dire this is. If you don't drink water for 3 days and no liquids whatsoever for 3 days, you will die. That's how detrimental this is. So, we want to engage in activities that fuel our spirit, to be it from dancing or listening to music, journaling, painting, spending time with quality people. And let me tell you, my mother was someone that understood the importance of being emotionally nourished. And she loved, I have to tell you guys, she loved to like color these like intricate pictures. I mean, they were, oh my goodness, they were fabulous. And if I can find one, I'm going to put it on our Instagram page, and I'll put the note up there and everything, and you'll know what this is regarding. Matter of fact, I think I have a couple, but I'm going to share them with you. And they're beautiful and they're intricate even. And she would spend her downtime in ways just allowing herself to be present and just peaceful in that space and place. And the other part of seeking that emotional nourishment means that we would surround ourselves with people that make us feel emotionally safe as well. People that are uplifting, encouraging, and supportive. Not people that are tearing you down, belittling you, telling you you're doing too much, being too much, or whatever the negative genre is that they want to pour into. Matter of fact, you might be like, okay, look, it's like a song I don't like. Let me turn it off. Switch the channel. You know, I have to tell you guys that I have my cousin who is more like my sister. And she's like my true safe place too. And I talk to her for hours. We matter of fact, we could talk about stuff that is just silly and we just cracking up and laughing and everything. But literally, it just kind of nurtures my soul. It just allows me to sit in a place, in a space to really be nourished. I have a dear friend that started out as business associate and is transferred and transformed into even like family. And I enjoy just hearing her and just spending time with her and hearing different things and being able to encourage her and pouring into her even, and vice versa. And so we want to develop these things in our lives so we can have that healthy deposit. So, Whispers, you see how important it is to have that emotional nourishment and not just survive, but to thrive by actively nurturing joy and connection. So that takes me to that third master key. Because remember, I told you you got two keys that are going to be left over from the negatives. But that third master key is something that's powerful and that can pivot the last two of those negative keys. And that's none other than practicing emotional transparency. See, hiding emotions don't make them disappear. It just delays the inevitable explosion. What is emotional transparency, though? What is it? So, it's the ability to be open and honest about your feelings as well as your experiences and not having to bottle them up and pretend. When I said that, it made me think of that commercial. And it's a powerful commercial, actually, that's out on television right now. And it's for some medication that deals with depression. The person is walking around and they have this little fake picture that they've drawn and it has a smile on it. But technically, the person is withdrawn. They're depressed. They're just heavy. But every time somebody sees them, they put that smiling face up there with that pretense. But guess what? People can see through that. People can see through that, especially those that are emotionally nourishing you. They see you. They see you even when you don't think they see you. They hear you even when you think they don't hear you. I tell my clients all the time, I see you before you ever saw me. I hear you before you ever say a word to me. And they can tell you and they can actually put money on it. Because, see, I'm emotionally invested. I am emotionally nourishing them. And I am practicing every single day the emotional transparency so it is reflected back to them. See, when they're trying to hide, they just haven't realized that the transparency has started to show because they are mirroring what they are receiving. That is how powerful this is, whisperers. That's how dynamic these keys are. That's why I said allow these three master keys to uproot and throw those other keys in the trash. Do your homework. Get serious, pivot. Do the power of pausing and work on self. Whispers, this conversation is huge. And I wanted to take my time on this today. I wanted to bring this element to life for us. See, this helps us to express concerns before resentment builds, even. This way, we don't have to have a wound that isn't healing, but it's literally just festering, getting infected, and poisoning our very souls. That's how people become septic. And lo and behold, when they become septic and they're not treated, they die. It's the same thing with our mental health. You become septic and you die. We have to be willing to step in, step up, and step over. Because this allows you to be vulnerable, which is a sign of strength, not weakness. This allows you to start putting in the healthy, whole foods into your diet, which means healthy relationships, healthy reactions, healthy mental, physical, and emotions. That's totality, whisperers. You know, this discussion, whoo, I have to tell you, I'll probably even come back and listen to it again because this discussion just nourishes my soul. It excites me when I get to talk about things like this and to be able to sit in your space and place with you and to deliver a discussion like this. You know, it's a lot to digest and it's a lot to ingest as well. So give yourself a moment to really ruminate over these things that have been shared with you today. And we have to be willing to bring clarity to the forefront of our minds and our heart. So before I wrap up our discussion, I want to make sure that you all know that if you're looking for help and clarity, feel free to really book your consultations with me. I tell you constantly, my calendar is live. It's in every description box in our episodes. There's a link that's over there, even on Instagram at whispers in a bottle_podcast. Please tap on the link. So I also told you that I had a couple announcements that I wanted to share with you all. And so this is for all of our female whisperers. You know that this month is Women's History Month and all the dynamic things that women have done and what they have built that so many of us are able to step up and step out into our greatness, our purpose. Even for me, even be able to sit here behind a microphone and to deliver discussions like this, it was because of dynamic women that went ahead of us and that pioneered even in radio and different things as well. So I have the great privilege and honor that I started a community that's for women, about women. And it's called the Millionaire's Mindset Network. And literally, it is such a beautiful community. And because I'm telling you about this right now, and this is literally before March the 11th, ladies, if you DM me over at whispers in a bottle underscore podcast, I will get you a special invitation because our literal millionaires lunch and learns are only for members. But this month, because it's March, I'm inviting you to join us on March the 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in our private Zoom room. And we have dynamic discussions. It's an opportunity for you to see how the millionairesses connect with other millionairesses. And it's more than dollars and cents. So that's one thing I want you all to realize, that this is helping you to build on your intellectual property. It's helping you to refine yourself in your businesses. It's helping you to refine yourselves as millionairesses as you're building your legacy as well. But we have dynamic things that are coming up. We have webinars that are about to launch. We have for 2025, our webinars for 2025. We have our challenges that are coming up. We have our networking opportunity that's about to come for 2025 as well. So there's a lot of things that are on that plate. So don't forget that if you want to be a part or to just come and see how it is on March the 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, DM me the word millionaireess over on Instagram at whispersinabottle_podcast. Also, don't forget that I am live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Noom Vibe, and you will not hear the same discussion that you get over here on Whispers in a Bottle. I produce different shows. I produce different topics, but you do get your master keys in all of my discussions. So just to let you know that, and don't forget to subscribe to the Whispers Exchange, which is our newsletter, because like I said, there's going to be bonus about this discussion in there too. Plus you get the featured mocktail cocktail. So make sure that you subscribe to the Whispers Exchange. There's a live link in the description box, as well as we have on our Instagram page. So in closing, let me say this to you all, Whisperers. Emotional wealth is true wealth. And our emotional currency is the most valuable wealth you will ever have. So, unlike money, which can be lost and then it could be regained even, emotional bankruptcy, unfortunately, leaves scars that take years and sometimes even lifetime to heal. So, if you had or if you have been running on empty, it's time to refill your emotional tank. And if you've been neglecting emotional needs of those around you, please, please start depositing love. Start being present today. Challenge yourself to step up and step in. And if you've been carrying the weight of emotional debt from the past, it's time to consolidate your debt so that healing can take place. And know that it's possible to heal. And emotional freedom is within reach. And it's in reach of being debt free. I mean, debt free. Whisperers, it's always such a pleasure and an honor to have you here, that you spend your life seconds with me. But it's even better if you share this discussion with someone that may be weighed down in emotional debt, that could be struggling to break free. Share the episode and tell them to follow us so they can get their master keys, so they can start to have a bank account that has beautiful wealth in it that will never erode. So don't forget to come back next week right here on Podbean at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you'd like to hear other discussions, please make sure that you're subscribed to the Whisper Exchange newsletter because literally it tells you where I am, what I'm doing, even if we have announcements, even. So, this has been so wonderful. So, with that being said, listeners, you have been listening to Whispers in a Bottle Grown Talk Cocktail Fridays, a clear voice amongst the noise. My name is Sonia Lorray. I'm a lifestyle relationship counselor, fashion psychologist, holistic health and wellness practitioner, but always honored to say that I am your host. So, with that being said, everyone, please have a beautiful weekend. Be safe. Ladies, don't forget to DM the word, millionaires over there on Instagram so I can get you an invitation. You don't want to miss it. All right, guys, be safe. Thank you for joining me. Take care.